What is cracking, Hope Nation? It is your friendly neighborhood, Kevin Hines, and I am here with a very special guest today for our Hope Rising Summit 2020. His name is Marcus Butler, and he's an amazing young human being, an amazing man with a heart of gold. And let's just get right into it. He saved my life. He saved my life when I attempted to take my life off the Golden Gate Bridge. He was one of the Coast Guard officers who fished me from the waters and got me to safety that day. So I couldn't have more gratitude for this man and him being in the position he was. And Marcus is an amazing Coast Guard officer, member, and he is here to share with you his story, his trials and tribulations, what he's been through, what he's gone through, and how he's coming out on the other side. Marcus Butler, it's great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too, Kevin.
Not to mention, he was in our film Suicide, The Ripple Effect, so that was great to have you in that movie as well. I vividly remember being on the boat that day with you in the film and having the Coast Guard roll up on us, wave up on us with their sirens, because we thought we were in trouble, but then they saw you in your Coast Guard hat and they were like, okay, we're good to go. So that was awesome.
Yes.
But, Marcus, let's get right into your backstory and build a narrative for the folks watching. You grew up in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
You had a wonderful, happy family, lots of outdoor activities, skiing, mountain biking, rock climbing. You know, you're the oldest of 4 kids, 2 younger brothers, younger sister, grew up in the mountains, and you always had this fascination with the ocean. Tell us about that fascination first before we move any further.
I think it was mostly just, growing up in the mountains, visited the ocean every once in a while, but didn't live there. So I'm not sure. Just always kind of had a draw to the ocean and enjoyed it. And, so it was just not being around something I wanted to be around. So
there you go. That makes sense. You consider yourself a pretty smart kid back then. But you say you didn't apply yourself toward the end of high school, a lot of drinking and partying. You weren't ready for college after you graduated from high school, so you joined the military. You love the ocean, of course, so in 1996, you joined the U.S. Coast Guard. Tell us about joining the Coast Guard and what that experience was like.
Well, like you said, one of the smart things I did, finally realized I wasn't ready for college. So about the only other choice usually is military. And at that time, fortunately, we were at peace. I've been at peace for quite a while. So I wanted to do something where I was doing something every day. So, and of course, like you said, I love the ocean. So I, try out the Coast Guard and joined the Coast Guard, went to boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey. Then got my first assignment out of a ship up in Seattle. And it was pretty neat. It was kind of funny because I joined the U.S. Coast Guard thinking, guard the U.S. coast. And I ended up, when I finally got to my ship, we weren't too far off the coast of Russia, up in the Bering Sea in Alaska. And I kept thinking, okay, this isn't where I thought I would be, but hey, I'll make the most of it. So, yeah, but it was a fun time. So definitely probably the best move I ever made.
Very cool. Good. And you after boot camp, your first unit was a 378-foot cutter in Washington State. As you said, you spent time in Alaska, the South Pacific, doing fishery patrols. What is a drug interdiction? What does that even mean? I don't even know.
That's okay. Well, you see a lot of it on the news lately, but the Coast Guard is responsible for taking a lot of the drugs, I guess, off the ocean before they even hit the streets.
Wow.
So we go and do, go down South Pacific and lots of different areas in the world and get the drugs before they ever reach our shores. So
I imagine that's dangerous work. Is it dangerous work?
I guess it could be.
What can it be?
A lot of any of the interactions I ever had, they just were kind of like, oh shoot, we're caught, hands in the air and done. Wasn't, okay. But I'm sure there are times that it's dangerous.
Fair enough. Okay, all right. You did a lot of search and rescue. You spent 2 years on that 378-foot cutter, and the ship was the ship you saw your first. Tragically, you saw your first dead body on that ship.
Correct.
And can you describe what happened there and how that affected you?
Well, we did a lot of, everybody's seen the deadliest catch and all the crab fisheries up there in Alaska. And those guys they're phenomenal what they do. I mean, the weather they go out in and how hard they work, everything is pretty amazing. And of course, it's very dangerous. We had, and I don't know how often this happens, but the crab fishermen, they have to go up and bait these giant crab pots that they put down. And these things are like probably 8x8x4. They're large. We're not talking a little tiny pot. They're big. So person has to crawl up in there, bait the hook, and then they put the crab over the side. Well, every once in a while, somebody will be up in the baiting the hook, don't get out before the pot falls over. And this is what happened to this individual. And once the pot goes over, it's going to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it until you can, hit bottom and go around and pull it back up. So obviously he drowned. I don't know how often this happens, but, unfortunately, I guess, it's a very dangerous job as well. It's risky. So a lot of these guys get injured and die and stuff. So we had to get the gentleman's body off and take it back to shore and stuff. So yeah, that was the first time. That's the first time I'd seen one ever. I don't even think I'd been to a funeral at that point.
Oh, wow.
In my life. And I didn't handle him directly, but still seeing a body for the first time was, a shock for anybody, I think.
Absolutely, for anybody, I definitely agree with you there. But on a more hopeful note, this was the ship where you decided you wanted to drive small rescue boats and help save lives as your job in the Coast Guard. That was you kind of found your purpose. Would you say that's accurate?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. There's tons of jobs in the Coast Guard. I mean, any military branch is self-sufficient. So, I mean, that we have, cooks, and they call them yeomen, but secretaries, and you have storekeepers, and you have mechanics, and, there's everybody, lots of jobs. But that's kind of, when I got into that stuff, that's when I decided, I want to do, drive the small boats and actually rescue people and do stuff like that.
And so after that, you were transferred to San Francisco Station at the Golden Gate, 1998, yes. Right? And you spent, was it 4 years there?
Yeah, 4 years, right below your, I guess it'd be your right shoulder there in the background.
Yeah, that's right.
Where I lived for 4 years.
Oh, man. Sometimes I forget that's there. So you spent 4 years there. And you say that if SF Gate is not the busiest, then it's one of the busiest rescue stations in the entire Coast Guard.
Correct.
And you did love it there. And
yes.
It was the best unit you were in for your entire career.
Hands down.
You're still friends with a lot of the folks that we're stationed with.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big skeleton in the closet of the Golden Gate Bridge. For those people, those few people in the world who don't know, and by the way, I met one of these people recently. I was on a phone call. No, I was in an Uber, and there was an individual who just had no knowledge of what went on at the Golden Gate Bridge as it relates to suicides. But there's a lot going on at the Golden Gate Bridge besides suicides, not just.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of ways to die near that bridge. Let's just be clear. But can you kind of break down the skeleton in the closet for those that might not know who are watching right now? What did it mean to be a Coast Guard member or in a unit in the Coast Guard working at the Golden Gate Bridge?
Well, it's funny that you'd said nobody knows about it. There were probably a lot more people out there that didn't know it before your story came to light, and it was all over the internet and everything. But yeah, nowadays there are a lot fewer people that don't know about it. But I do remember when I first got my orders to that unit, there were people, at my current unit that were saying, "Oh, you get to go be a body snatcher." What are you talking about, a body snatcher? And so that it was known somewhat around the Coast Guard already. And but I really had no idea. I knew what they were saying, but I was like, okay, whatever, no idea about it. And so when I got there, obviously, something they texted you about that for some reason, as it has this giant allure for people in San Francisco, in the country, and I believe there's people from all over the world that have come and take their life from the bridge. And unfortunately, somebody's got to recover the body afterwards, and that falls to that unit there in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So,
And for the 4 years you were there, it's my understanding you helped pick out 57, as you call them, poor souls from under the Golden Gate Bridge, and one live one.
yep.
Yeah, you saved my life. You and your unit saved my life, and I can't thank you enough. I can never be, I can never be grateful enough for what you did, and what all your unit, your team members did, because had you not been there in the time and manner in which you were, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And so I'm grateful for that. But you saved a lot more than you lost, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Not just from jumps off the Golden Gate Bridge, rather, but the other situations that were
Search and
going
rescue
on.
in general.
Search and rescue in general. Can you talk a little bit about the search and rescue of the passing of Scott Smith, of the band Loverboy, and this rescuing the other, I think, was it 4 members that were with him?
I believe there were 4 people, if I remember correctly.
Can you tell me that story? Tell us that story of what happened there in that situation.
Well, it was a big storm that came in, and a lot of people, they see, everybody sees on the Discovery Channel up in Washington, Oregon, where they have the big heavy weather and stuff. But San Francisco, Golden Gate, and offshore there has some intense weather, and a lot of people don't realize it, because it's beautiful. The background you have there is totally calm and flat, which it can be, but it can be a total nightmare as well. And so they were sailing, I believe, up to Vancouver on a sailboat, and got caught in a storm. Big wave came. I believe they other 3 had gone below to get some life jackets and get out of the weather and stuff. And Scott got swept off the boat by a big wave, and the Coast Guard got the call. So we went out, both of our boats went out, and some helicopters went out. And it was by far the biggest seas I'd ever seen. We didn't know who it was at the time. We just knew a sailboat in distress. And it was huge. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I believe, it was at least 25 foot going through the gate and out.
5-foot wave?
Yeah, it was enormous. It was the biggest thing I'd ever seen. It was very close, I believe, to the max of what we were allowed to go out in.
Whoa.
So, but we have so the Coast Guard has a couple levels of drivers. A coxswain is a boat driver, and you have a heavy weather driver, and you have a surfman. And I never achieved surfman, but some of the upper guys at the unit were surfmen, and they were the ones that were driving in that. It was way beyond my skill, or most people's skill, to drive in. And we went out, towed them in. We were never able to find Mr. Smith, and we didn't know who it was until afterwards. But that made the news, and unfortunate. Just one of the it goes to show 3 lives were saved, 1 was lost.
Yeah.
But I think I use that as a story to show, there's a lot of tragedy, but it could have been 4 lives. So
right.
There's still a lot of people we saved for every one we lost.
Yeah, I think that's the key there, is that you guys are making a really big difference in changing the course of people's lives who are sometimes doing things maybe they shouldn't be doing at the time they're doing them. Maybe they should.
Mother Nature's unpredictable. Those can come up, and yeah, some people are doing things they shouldn't. But it's very easy to get caught, unawares out in the ocean. The ocean's a crazy place. It's dangerous, and it can definitely catch you off guard. So
sure. And those nearly 25-foot waves, that's about half the height of your boat. You're 47 foot.
Where we're sitting about half that height. So you're looking up at these waves, and just
God,
it's pretty wild.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
It's nerve-wracking. I couldn't handle that for sure. I wonder if you could talk about your first personal experience with losing someone to suicide in high school.
Okay.
here you go in the Coast Guard, going to this career, and you're experiencing all these suicides or attempts. But when was the first time that you experienced something that, like you said, your good friend in high school, Joe?
So a good friend of mine in high school, Joe, it was after high school. We graduated. I was actually stationed in San Francisco at the time. And he was one of those, seemed to be happy, turned his life around. Everything was good. We thought, obviously not. He had some demons somewhere. And he ended up taking his life back home in Colorado. And I knew this. He grew up in the Bay Area. A lot of his family was in the Bay Area. And they had moved at some point, middle school or something, to Colorado. And so he took his life and went home for his funeral, which was, really sad, and learned at his funeral that in his note he left his family that his wish was to be cremated and his ashes spread under the Golden Gate Bridge. And that kind of hit me like a brick, because I was like, okay, here I am dealing with these suicides here. And at this point, I hadn't really talked to anybody about any of this. Yeah. And then a good friend of mine, who did commit suicide, not off the bridge, but now I'm going to go spread his ashes on the bridge. It was very surreal and, I don't know, odd coincidence. I don't know what the way to put it is, but it was, it was tough. So
it's heartbreaking. I'm sorry for your loss and for his family's loss. It's devastating anytime it happens, anywhere it happens, any way it happens, right?
Correct.
It could be the Golden Gate Bridge, it could be another means. It's the people left behind can never go back from that. And
Correct.
And to be fair, we talked about this earlier today on our phone call. You've, and we'll get into this in a minute, but every loss you saw off the Golden Gate Bridge will stay with you, and that's something you can't give back to the sea or the ocean. You can't return that. And that's something every Coast Guard officer who works in those positions has to see. And I think we'll talk about this a little maybe in more detail later. But you and I are going to get into why the VA doesn't recognize your PTSD as they would so clearly with someone with combat PTSD, and the lack of available treatment for what you're going through, because there's just not enough knowledge or information about Coast Guard and first responder PTSD. They're often left to their own devices to figure it all out, like you've been. I can't imagine how difficult that's been. What's that like when you've seen so much and it affects you so deeply? How do you cope?
Well, when I was there in San Francisco was 98 to 02. So this is peacetime, the very beginning of the Iraq War. So we didn't have a lot of soldiers coming back yet. So PTSD, I don't know there was even a term at that point. I'm not sure, but I don't know that it was a term. It definitely wasn't a widespread knowledgeable, thing like it is now. So we didn't have any counseling. They didn't have any means of, obviously there was somebody I could go talk to, but there was no system for what we would gone through. And, I wouldn't say that's the fault of the Coast Guard, because it's such a small segment of people. And like I said, PTSD wasn't a wide known thing when the effects weren't known, long-term effects weren't known. I don't know what they do now. Hopefully they have something at that unit, now that, it's a lot more known. I guess that's a good thing. That one of the few good things that came out of the war is the science and the knowledge of PTSD now, if you could find any kind of silver lining to it. But it's tough, especially not understanding it. One of the things I know I told you before, and I don't know if it sounds arrogant is the word or not, but we we used to view the suicide jumpers almost as kind of annoyance. It was like, okay, great. Somebody else took their life and we got to clean it up. Me, and I'm sure most everybody else there, we had no knowledge of mental health. No knowledge that most of these people, they literally couldn't help themselves. It wasn't something that they were being selfish in or didn't care. It was something they couldn't help. I understand that now. A lot more people understand suicide better now, but at the time I didn't. And learning about mental health from you and other people, it's actually helped some, because I know before in the beginning, before, you and I connected and stuff, I couldn't understand what was going on. It's PTSD is not a mental illness, because it's not, it's caused by a trauma, but it's similar. There's things going on in your brain that you don't understand, you can't control, you don't know what's going on or why. And so it's definitely frustrating. Why do I do this? I used to get more upset that I was mad than the fact that I was mad, because I had no idea why I was mad, things like that. I had no clue what was going on. And so it's definitely, I have had one counselor at the VA that I went to go see. She's actually a social worker, I guess, not a counselor. And she was very good about helping me, I'd say, connect the dots, understand, even scientifically, the different parts of the brain and what changed and why I did this and why I did that. So at least I understood it. Beyond her having the knowledge to help me understand it, as in for treatment or anything, there hasn't been a lot. But at least the knowledge of PTSD is there, like the knowledge of mental health, where you can, I always say, connect the dots, figure out, okay, why in the world do I do this? Okay, I do this because this is happening and that is happening, and now I at least get it. So.
And that self-awareness is key for your progression, right? For you to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Could you go back and take us to that day? Because I want, everyone's heard me tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
How would you tell the story of September 25th, 2000 in your words?
Okay. We were down on the docks already. Like I think you've told in your story, there were multiple things just lined up perfectly for you to be able to live. We were down on the docks. I don't remember if we were getting ready to go somewhere or we were doing training or whatever, we were doing maintenance, but we were all down on the boats when we heard they have an announcement that goes out, person in the water, Golden Gate Bridge, and it'll say which tower and which side, so we know the area to go to. Or center span, if that's where it is. I believe that's where most people are. So we just had to run up, get our life jackets and stuff, and the boat was already running. So we didn't, it's quite of a run from the station house down to the boats. So we didn't have to do that. So we got there a lot quicker than usual. The boat was already running. So all we had to do is untie and go. We grab our EMT kits, start putting on our paper suits and gowns and gloves and masks and all that stuff. And somebody's looking out, looking for you. And there were people, not often, but not all the time, but sometimes there's people up on the bridge. They'll be pointing which direction and stuff like that. And, they're very tiny at that point, but we could see people trying to steer us to where you were and stuff. So you're just assuming another dead body. You're not, after, dozens of times, you're just, okay, we're going to do a body recovery. And that's your state of mind. And then all of a sudden somebody says, holy cow, not in those words, but we won't use it on the webcam. That guy, he's swimming. I'm like, what? And so your brain switches from a body recovery to, oh, there's somebody we can save. So I don't remember all the details. It's been so many years now. But, we went alongside. Obviously, anybody who jumps off from that height is going to have, possible neck and back problems, which you did. So we get them on a collar, you see collar around their neck, and get them on a backboard, get them immobilized. And, we got you on board and checking, your vitals and all that stuff. And I have racked my brain trying to remember who was with me. I don't. I've asked a lot of my shipmates that I'm still in contact with that, know your story and stuff. And I've never have been able to put together who the rest of the crew was, unfortunately. Wish I could. Must have been people that I'm not in contact with anymore. But I remember somebody had said, "Kid, you know what you just did? You
Yeah,
just jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge."
I remember that.
And and it was surreal, because here it is. Normally we're picking up mangled bodies, sometimes stuff out of a horror movie, and you didn't have a visible scratch on you, basically. And I mean, we didn't know obviously your internal problems you had, but it's like, what? How is this possible? And so we passed you off to the medics, and they took you on to the hospital, and we didn't know what happened to you at that point. We bring so many people back that needed assistance, heart attack, stuff like that. You don't really get in the mindset of, we pass them off to the medics and they do what they're just, it's another search and rescue case, done. We don't get in the, usually get in the mindset of following up, what happened to the person. So never thought to see what happened to you, never knew until, your book came out, and I ran across it online, and so I was like, wait a minute. And I recognized you immediately. I said, that's the kid. It's gotta be. And then of course I contacted you, and, went from there.
And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
You said to me in your notes, you do remember a guy coming down to the station with some story about some sort of seal or sea lion or something that seemed to be keeping you above water. And everybody there was like, okay, buddy, whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah. Sure, pal.
Uh-huh.
What was it like when you heard that story?
It was interesting. I remember you and I had that conversation, because I heard that. I don't remember the name of the gentleman that contacted you and told you about it. I remember it, and it's been a long time now. Yeah. But I do remember telling you that story that I had, and you were like, wait a minute, that guy never went down to the station. So then we know, okay, that's two people that validated it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are still like, sure, Kevin, right. Yeah. But, there are sea lions all over that place. People who haven't been there, they're like seagulls. They're everywhere.
Well, the best, go ahead.
No, and so, I mean, there's doubters, sure, but you know what? Two people saw it. You remember it, so.
I don't just remember it. I have a picture of it.
Okay.
The guy who saw it first, his name is Morgan McWard. He was from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was on the bridge that day with his mom, and he wrote into ABC News when I was on ABC News, Primetime Live with John Quinones. He does that show, What Would You Do? And he wrote into ABC News, and he sent a picture in the email, and it's a very morbid picture, because it's just my seemingly lifeless body above the water, being and this sea lion circling me. And there's a few pictures, so it's just
okay.
You see the sea lion making a circle.
That's
and Natasha Zubez of ABC 7 News later on did an investigative report on it and found that three people total reported it to the Coast Guard that day. So I'll never let anybody see those pictures. They're not for people to see. They're
I understand.
It's very traumatic. So, of course you understand. You lived it. You don't need me to tell you. I want to know moving forward about this, because I want people to really understand what you go through. You say meeting me and hearing my story and being a part of my rescue was a double-edged sword. On a good note, finding out that the person you saved me, turned my life around, and is trying to do good work for other people was wonderful, but it did force you to face some really serious demons in your life.
It did.
Can you kind of break down, and this is where I kind of want you to go into, if you don't mind, your journey from 2000 onward, and really how are you doing today? I really would like to share that with folks.
Okay. So from 2000 onward, I left San Francisco I think it's spring of 2002, I believe, not too long after 9/11. Went to Texas. By the time I'd left, we used to, a little morbid, I guess, we used to keep hash marks inside our hat. That's how I know 57. Every time we picked up a body, we'd stick a hash mark in our hat. I know it's a little morbid. A lot of us did it. We were very disconnected from what we were doing because you did it so often. So that's how I know that 57 number. So I left there, was excited about something new. San Francisco's amazing. Anybody that lives there knows that. So it was a little bummer leaving, the Bay. Obviously, I was kind of excited, thinking, okay, well, no more suicides. The station I was going to was 25% as busy as the one went to. So I was like, okay, not a lot of death. And go figure, one of the first couple months I get to my new unit, we have a suicide off a bridge in Southeast Texas. And so I volunteered to go because a lot of the other guys, hadn't done anything like that. So we go up, find the body. Most of my crew's sitting there kind of milling around. Okay, what do we do with it? Do we wait, get the coroner out here to get it? And I just kind of leaned over and picked the guy up by his belt and shirt and pulled him on the boat. It was not much different than a log in the way or something. And we got back to the unit, same kind of thing. We put him on a backboard, took him off. And I remember a good friend of mine, wasn't at the time, but became a good friend of mine, pulled me aside and he said, everybody's a little kind of weirded out how you just handled that guy like it was nothing. And that was the first time I realized, okay, something it's different about me, I guess, how desensitized I was to it, I guess. They had sent the rest of the crew home and I was like, go home. Why do I need to go home? And, we never did that in, San Francisco. And I didn't see any reason I need to go home. It was just a body. And of course, to them, it wasn't. And I think that was the first time I realized something was amiss, whatever that was. At this point, I didn't know what that was. But okay, something, obviously I'm desensitized to death extremely from this. So that was the only suicide I had, the rest of my time in, but had other search and rescue cases with death and stuff. And at that point, when my enlistment was up, I was just ready to put all that behind. So I knew if I'd left, super busy station like San Francisco and gone on to the others that weren't and still saw it, it was going to happen in my line of work. And I didn't really want to deal with that anymore. So.
Yeah. Did you have any nightmares or night terrors about all this?
All the time. Don't as much now, thanks to medicine and some treatment and stuff. I think everybody does. I have friends of mine that were at the unit with me that got transferred early because of this. They just couldn't handle it. Other friends that are, on VA disability from this. Lots of problems we've had. I know of two. Now, I don't know that it is from that, but two of my former shipmates at the unit have taken their own life since then. I don't know for certain if that is the cause.
At the Golden Gate Bridge unit?
Yes, yeah. Since then, it's been what it's been, I guess. It's 2020 now, so it's been 18 years since I was there. So it's a long time, but the last 18 years, I know of two that have. And I like I said, I don't know for certain if it's from that, but I wouldn't be surprised, with everything we went through. So
heavy toll to hold on to for the rest of your life. And I know you don't need me to say this, but I'm sorry that I was a part of that effect on you and on everybody in that Coast Guard office.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a place that was so dark and so dismal, as you know a lot about, and I believed I had no other option. I wish that day I could have reached out to my father and told him the truth about how I was feeling. Everything would have been different. But here we are today. We're trying to do some good. This
Mm-hmm.
Hope Rising Summit is going to help a lot of people see your work in a different light and what you go through, and it's going to help people recognize PTSD and other people they love and care about, and hopefully get them the treatment and help that they need. And I just have to say, from the bottom of my heart, Marcus, I really appreciate you, man. I love you, brother, and I'm thankful for you.
The same here. I mean, like I've said many times, it's ironic, I guess, that, you know, the guy we ended up saving probably 10 times more people than we have. I mean, we'll never know the amount of people that haven't jumped off the bridge because of you, but there's got to be dozens. I mean, if you think about it, there's got to be. So, you know, yes, you were an effect of it, but if you could turn around and you couldn't turn around and do any more good than you have. I mean, it's be kind of, you know, just the whole story is just neat to me. Your whole story. I mean, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but the way everything lined up and what you've done with your life has just always been a huge light for me. It's like I said, you said it's a double-edged sword. I mean, learning about you and getting into everything, yes, kind of opened up Pandora's box for me, but your PTSD is going to eat you up inside if you don't deal with it eventually. And I probably never would have dealt with it. So, and then the mental health is mental health. PTSD is kind of, I guess, a side part of it, but it's still somewhat the same. So learning about mental health from you and understanding exactly what's going on in people's heads and what the brain does. I mean, the brain it's a wild organ. I mean, the things it does are just, sometimes it's hard to explain to people that are lucky and haven't had any mental health problems before. It's hard for them to understand. But I mean, your brain your conscious can be here on one side going, okay, I know this isn't going on. I know this isn't happening, but your brain is telling you or telling your body, yeah, it's happening when it's not. So it's a powerful organ.
Yeah. I would always say the most powerful organ we wield, one that is mostly on automatic mode that we don't know how to use 90% of it. We only use 10% of our brains. And, you know, when you're dealing with something like PTSD or your mental health crisis of any kind, it's just great to have people you can refer to tell your truth to, so they can be there for you in your time of need.
Yes.
I'm glad you found, I'm glad you have your social worker to talk to, and I'm glad you're in counseling and you're taking care of your mental health. And just from one brother to another, if you ever need me, I'll be there.
Same here.
I'm here. I think we'll wrap it up right there. I think this is a really eye-opening interview. Great to have you as part of the Hope Rising Summit. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
All right,
Take care.
Take care.